Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Passing Time with Craig, where we're literally passing time. That's all we're doing now. I'm your host, as always, Craig McFarland, and today we're joined by my good friend who I haven't seen in forever because we don't live in the same province. This is what's exciting about this time. It is Brett Santacona. Hello, Brett.
Hey, Craig. Pleasure to see you.
Good to see you. How's Ontario treating you?
Ontario has been good. It's been quite interesting, just navigating these times. But other than that, nothing to complain about, nothing to report home to. All's good.
It's a different time right now, that's for sure. And I gotta say it, and I never thought I would say this, but Doug Ford is stepping up.
I know, like he is very controversial in like certain spots, and I'm not one to really comment on politics, but man, some of the stuff this guy is saying and how he's handling this pandemic is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Like what really sold me on him was just him stepping up and the everything with the masks and the 3M situation, and he said we're not gonna have this situation happen again. If we need it, we're gonna manufacture it here. It's as simple as that. And really, like that, I think that won a lot of people over, where and just his rapport and whatnot, and at a time like this, you really don't have the left and the right and this party and that party. We're all human. We're all one being. We just need to navigate through this together. Anything people can do to help one another, I feel, is really beneficial at this time. And yeah.
Totally, 100%. Well, we got lots to talk about. So
For sure.
First, so we met working at the Disney store at Toronto Eaton Centre.
Yes.
We're both Disney nerds. You're wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt right now.
Of course. You called me to come on this, and I was like, you know what, I gotta rep the Disney, gotta rep the mouse.
Yeah. So obviously Disney is huge. This has been a weird time because the parks are shut down.
Exactly.
But so one of the things, before we get into a lot of stuff, what keeps you busy, I want to talk about something you did recently. I guess it's been a while now. I can't keep track of days, but you were in California, much like myself.
Yes.
But you got to go and see a taping or multiple tapings of The Price is Right.
Yeah. So so I went to CBS Studios. It wasn't even so unrelated to the whole COVID-19 pandemic. So back in February, Drew Carey with his ex-fiance. His ex-fiance, unfortunately, was killed. The guy that she was dating, I don't have all the specifics of that story, but apparently the guy that she was dating at the time apparently pushed her off the balcony or something.
Right, I remember hearing
something really ridiculous. And within the month of February, they actually postponed all tapings of The Price is Right. And it wasn't actually supposed to tape the week I was going down. And I, on a luck of the fluke, I got a notification. Oh, we're looking for audience members, and anybody who's a fan of The Price is Right, if you wanna apply and get on. So I saw that, and I was like, oh wow, I was like, the cards are aligning. I was like,
yeah,
it's my chance. And so so I apply. I ended up getting a ticket for one of the tapings. My mindset going into it was, I'm gonna go, because they do 2 shows a day. They do a 9 a.m. and then they do a 1 o'clock. I've heard before people camp out at like 5 o'clock in the morning just to get a spot in line and to get into the studio. And I was like, I enjoy my beauty sleep. I am, you know what, I'm gonna go in the afternoon. I'll get up, I'll have my breakfast, I'll go over, and sure enough, I get in. I show up like an hour before the call, and I'm 6th in line. So I get in, they get you to sign this whole waiver document, pretty much saying that, like, if anyone's yelling out in the audience and you take their bid, that you're responsible. That is your choice. The producers will help you at certain points here and there. Drew will help you at certain points. Anything you do in terms of an action is like you're responsible for. And pretty much a lot of other contract terms. I don't know, maybe CBS owns me at this point, but so I get in, I sign the waiver, I get my name tag, I get a couple of photos done. Then is the waiting game. So you sit in one queue of the line, then they move you around to another part of the building, and then you're sitting there for a good hour or so. Then you got two producers that will come by. They'll talk to you, and they'll pretty much ask you a couple questions, and they'll just have a short, like, 2-minute interview with you. This is like your point to really sell them, and they're looking for like the really bubbly people that have a good story and can interview and talk well. And the guy I was actually sitting next to in line, funny enough, so he was a nurse from New Jersey. He also doubled as a drag queen. And
Oh,
that really caught their attention and whatnot. And the guy was like 6'7", big guy with like dyed blonde hair. And the guy, yeah, he was like really caught their eye, and he was the first one called up. The guy I was sitting next to, and then in the audience, so after like some waiting and some more, like they do this interview process, they get you to a different point in line, and then they give you the option. Oh, we have a concession stand if you want to go buy food. They have reruns of The Price is Right going, and then probably about 3 hours later in the total process, they get you in the studio, and then they arrange you based on if you're in groups, who you are and whatnot. And there was actually, funny enough, because these were all rescheduled shows, they didn't have enough audience members to take the show, so they hired a bunch of actors to fill in the studio audience. And so there was only about 100 people that actually showed up, and so that made me feel comfortable because I had a 9 in 100 shot of getting up, and then they pick 6 people to go up and play a game, and
yeah.
yeah, you can win big. So the guy I was sitting next to in line, he got picked, and he made it up on stage. He met Drew and all. He made it all the way to the end. I'm not going to spoil it, but because of this situation that these were all rescheduled shows, they invited audience members back for multiple tapings and whatnot. And so they said, hey, come back tomorrow for a taping. We need audience members. And I was like, I had nothing to do at this point. I was on vacation. I was just playing it day by day. And so I went back the next day, and I was there for the 2 tapings. And this first taping, there was only 60 people there, which, yeah, I was thinking I had even better odds, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, I didn't get called up. But I'm going to be in the front row of the audience on a couple of days, and should be airing the 3 episodes between May 15th to May 20th. But that was definitely a highlight of my California trip. Just something different. Like, you go out to Hollywood, and one of the things that on everybody's bucket list, hey, I want to go to a TV show taping and whatnot. And I've gone out. That trip was my 3rd trip out to California, and yeah, I just absolutely enjoyed it. I took in a couple meetings for my artist management company I'm building. I also went to Disneyland while I was out there. I got on the new Rise of the Resistance.
Nice.
Probably best ride I've ever ridden. It's just so immersive, the whole experience from the start to the end. And Disney does that very well, trying to capture the story and tell people, like, and try to make you feel like you're almost in the ride, which which I thoroughly enjoyed. And yeah, overall, great vacation. Didn't win a car though.
That's okay. But yeah, you get to see things. Like, I highly recommend to people, like when I got back from my trip, because I went and saw Jimmy Kimmel Live and the Connors,
Nice.
and people were like, oh, like, that's awesome. And it's like, they're free tickets. Like, they don't cost anything. Like, even like Ellen and the Kelly Clarkson show, they're all free because they need the audience, right? Like, that's the whole thing. You know, if some of the bigger shows, you have to kind of wait longer, but Jimmy Kimmel was recorded like 2 blocks from the hostel, no, 2 buildings from the hostel I was staying at. So like, I left right like when it was like allowed to start lining up, and I didn't have to wait too long, and then I ended up being in the front row. And on the commercial break, Jimmy Kimmel like spoke to me for the whole time, and it was awesome.
Nice. And that was the same thing. I had Drew Carey come up to me, and like, he saw that I was from Canada. He got talking and whatnot. He was telling me the story about Paul McCartney and how he met him in Toronto and whatnot at one of his shows. And yeah, he was like, oh, you're going solo and whatnot as well. It's like, well, if you ever go to Disneyland, just take advantage of the single rider line, which I really did. But yeah, definitely one of the things, if anyone's listening and would ever like to do a TV show taping, what if they ever go out to LA, one of the things I recommend, definitely bring water. If you don't have a full day that you're willing to commit to this, I wouldn't do that, because like Craig said, just depending on the weights, and like some of the bigger shows, they can be longer, and then there's technicalities. And even though you see it on TV, it's only a half hour or an hour long show. The taping itself might go longer, so
Yeah.
it's just very unpredictable. And even in my situation, they told me to show up at 1 o'clock, and we didn't get into the studio till roughly around 4 o'clock, and then didn't leave till just a little after 6:30. So if you don't
Yeah,
if you don't have that flexibility.
it's fun. Though I will say, because so we talked on the commercial break and they recorded, and occasionally they release these little conversations on YouTube. So I'm always looking to see when they'll release it. But
Yeah.
the Black Keys were a guest, so we went outside to the parking lot to watch the Black Keys concert, which was super awesome. But there were these big screens, and as we were all leaving afterwards, after the Black Keys concert, and they're playing clips and everything, this couple was like, "Oh, hey, it's you." I was like, "What?" They're like, "We just saw like you were being interviewed on the big screen," and I was like, "Oh, it's like I'm famous." Like it's like first like I know you moment. So that was pretty cool. So speaking of talent and awesome things, so you're an artist management. So you play music yourself,
Yeah.
but you are helping out some bands to get their name out there and promote them. So how'd you get into that?
So I went to school at Durham College for music business management, and I've just always had like, as you said yourself, I'm a musician myself, and I just always had a passion for the business end of things. And when I was playing in it's been a couple years since I've actually been in a project. I've just been doing session stuff, performance wise, but just ended up, any of the bands I was in, there was a need to do this. You needed to book gigs. We needed to promote ourselves. We needed to sell tickets. We needed merchandise. We needed this and that done. And I just was I always took the initiative. And I said, hey, if this needs to be done, I'm going to get it done. And then one of the guys I was working with, they're like, do you ever consider a career in this? And that was something I never really considered. And then eventually, when I got time to apply for college, I ended up getting in for Durham for this music business program, and absolutely loved the program. It's a very small knit community with this one There's less than 100 people in this program across 3 years, and you learn so much. And all the professors that you have they have many years of knowledge and experience, and just this huge plethora of knowledge to really tap into. And
Right.
one of the things that really confused me and really had me indecisive with career path was I had skills in all these different areas of the music industry. And really it was, how do I find a career path that A, is gonna financially sustain me, and then B, how can I like be happy with doing one thing and only one thing when I have all these other skills and I want to be right in the midst of things. And for me, I fell into artist management. I never sat out and said, hey, this is my career path, this is what I want to do. And then eventually with school projects, I ended up, one of our projects, we have like it's a virtual business, and we make a model music industry. So we have a couple people that are working as concert promoters. We have others that are working at record labels. So I got into an artist management company, and I got into an A&R role, which means artists and repertoire. So pretty much they're the person that's representing your artist at a label. They're going to be the one that's championing them, and pretty much it's like kind of similar to, in like actor sense, to a producer, where they're really the one that's pitching the role and shaping the role for the TV networks. And
Right.
I'm not too familiar with the TV and the acting terms, but really this person in A&R, they're the ones that are scouting, and they're the ones that are trying to discover new talent, and the ones that are eventually pitching them, and they're going to be their representative at the label. So I had that role within college. So I pitched a bunch of different acts, and Some of them, and pretty much every act I pitched got turned down for various different reasons. And a lot of times it's work with college students, and everybody wants to be the one that's right and in the know. And some of these acts even as well, I look back and I pitched them for various reasons. One of the acts I pitched, they just signed to Universal Music, which
Wow.
is a testament to the kind of ear I had at the time and what these guys were passing up on. Because eventually, one of these other college students, they found that act and they took them on as a management client, and yeah, the rest is history. They just had their first major label release last month, and yeah, they're now touring and not touring right now, but
Nobody is touring, but this is a great
yeah.
time for people to discover some music, especially, you know,
Oh yes, exactly.
we're going to be, you know, when this is all said and done, like everybody's talking about supporting local, and this it
Oh
extends
yes.
to these great artists and local stuff. You know, maybe not paying $200 to go see this concert, instead
Yeah.
paying $10 to see 20 different concerts, right? And so this is a great time. So a couple of them I want to talk. There's Cozen, which sounds like Frozen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so Cozen, so going back on the main story here, so Cozen was one of those acts that I pitched for college. So Sid Wan, who plays keys in the group, I went to high school with him. I played in various projects musically with him. And this is so their first EP that they produced, Swimming to the Stars. It's a two-part EP. Half of it is heavier material. The other half is light material. They are a fusion group. They blend a bunch of different genres and influences from rock to jazz to pop to gospel, you name it. And it's very similar to a Linkin Park, where it's like, we're going to do hard rock and metal music, but then we're going to fuse all these different genres. And we want to make it an appeal to a lot of people. And like you're saying, with the discovery portion, with the streaming era, it's a really good time for that kind of music, because the genre lines are blurring. Obviously, you'll have those people that are very pure with, this is what I like, this is what it needs to be sung with. And if people people take stuff with a grain of salt, and they're able to push their bias aside and really, like, hey, this is music. And I don't, if it's a little bit of this, if it's a little bit of that, hey, that's what makes them unique. And there's a lot of acts that are doing that. So I pitched them because that's what they asked for. They asked for, we want a diverse act. And I believed at the time, and I still believe, that this act has potential. They have the right attitude, and the music itself speaks for itself. That's always the basis of what you scout for and what you want to look for. You want to work with good people, and you want to work with, like, ultimately the art comes first. So if it doesn't sound good, there's no point in me investing my time in. So I pitched them. They didn't like it. So I pretty much said, you know what? If they're not going to work with them, I believe in this project, I'm going to work with them. So I ended up hooking them up with a show. And then their lead singer, Maxwell Aka, he's pretty much like the band leader of this group. This was formed as like a solo project for him, and then developed into a full band project. And I sat him down, and there was a rant he had on Facebook, and like just pretty much a video message saying, like, I had to pull the EPs down. They weren't performing as well as they did on the streaming services. I'm just really frustrated. I'm not sure what I want to do exactly. I'm paraphrasing more or less, but it was pretty much like a video message like that, saying why he pulled it down. And it was just this huge project. And I told him, I was like, why did you pull it down? Your album sounded phenomenal, and I want to work with you, and I want to see where we can take this project. So from that day, and that was summer 2016, and from there, we've now put out a full-length record. Fearful Wonder came out last summer. We're currently working on new music at the moment, but done a couple music videos and whatnot, and we went on a Ontario, Quebec tour. We're just in the planning phase right now with them, and all's looking good.
Yeah, no, I listened to some of the stuff, and it's very different, and I liked it. I think it does appeal to a lot of people. And then there's also Talking Violet is another group. They're different.
Yes, and I've never, and like I was saying before, I never really had a basis of hey, this is an act I want to work with, or this is an act I need to work with this specific group. And Talking Violet is a very good attestament to that, because it was a fluke accident as to why we met them. So I was on tour with Cozen summer 2017, and first night of the tour was Windsor, Ontario. We were playing at a place called the Beer Exchange that no longer exists. But the other band we were touring with, it was this like Quebec City like fusion group, We Throw Flowers, and it was a very metal and hard rock leaning bill, and that's how the bill got built. And the promoter at the time that was promoting that, I guess he really didn't have an idea how to build this show, so he threw on this dream pop shoegaze group, which I never heard of the genre before I saw them, and before I started working with them. And I saw them, and I was blown away by the live show. And they were like, oh, we do this like every month. We jump onto whatever show we can. And I got talking, and then I kept it on the back burner, what they were doing. And then kind of like my other project, going back to school, same class, same course. And the prof at the time, he was like, we want to, even though we've had history with bands, we want to work with acoustic projects. We want to work with soloists and duets, because a lot of the times we had students that were in this program that were scouting acts, and they would just run off with the band, or the band would just not communicate, or they won't show up, or they're in some remote place, and hey, we don't need you. We just want the free consulting. And
Right.
we already have other people that are on our team working. We just want the free opportunity and the extra people to listen to the music. So I pitched that, because Talking Violet, before they started as the full band, Jill, the lead singer and the guitarist, and Jay, who's also the other guitarist, they're a couple, and they started off as like an acoustic folk duo, and they performed a lot around Windsor. And they had one song out, Clouds, that was on streaming services. It was just basement recording, and I remember hearing that. I was thinking, hey, I should pitch them, because they're unique, there's something different, they have the ability to do a full band. So
Right.
I never pitched them, because then I was like, hey, I will get into the same situation that I have with Cozen. They are too good. I'm not sure what the genre is, or what they're doing, or what this is, but I'm just going to dive in and see where it goes. And that was now, so we're coming up on 2 years now.
Wow.
Since that point. And we just finished recording their debut.
Nice.
And we're in the planning process for that. And one of the benefits, and probably a question that you'll ask later about how the industry is handling the situation at the moment, is one of the benefits we have right now is we haven't dived into booking tours yet, because we're just at the start of this artist cycle. So
Right.
we have such a huge benefit at the moment, that we have the flexibility to bend our schedule and to pretty much work around this whole situation to a point where we feel comfortable. And then at the point when the powers above us give the green light, we'll just go at it.
And I
We're
think
ready to go.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be beneficial is for a lot of these great bands that aren't, quite Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber, The Weeknd level, is that there's going to be a lot of local venues that are going to want to bring people out. They're going to want to have fun. And so it's going to be a great opportunity for bands, because there's going to be a demand for them, I think.
Exactly, as well. And then unfortunately, you got to play devil's advocate as well, because of this whole situation as well. You might even have where some venues might not even survive this, because of being closed for that long, because there is still overhead, there's still cost. You just laid off all your employees, you have inventory when it comes to like beer and food and all other drinks and supplies that are just sitting there and going to waste. And unfortunately as well, like this is an ask where everybody's like, you have your frontline workers obviously as well, but the other big push, like you said earlier, is supporting local. And after this thing, now is the time. You really got to push on supporting your local venues and supporting your local businesses, because there's still overhead costs involved with all of this as well. So it's really great to get bands out to venues and to give them a spot to play, but we also got to support the people that are dedicating their life to making this venue happen and making this spot happen for the local bands.
And supporting local. There's so like, I mean, nobody really likes Budweiser anyways, so there's so many great breweries in Canada that you can definitely still support. What are some good breweries out in your way that you like?
Okay, so I gotta support my my local guys. Kind of not local. So I live in an area with Whitby, Ontario, but I just with working now, like my daytime job, I work in the executive suites at the Scotiabank Arena, formerly the Air Canada Centre for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Raptors. I also work at BMO Field in their executive suites for the Toronto FC and the Argonauts. I also freelance between a couple other venues as a stage tech for several concerts and major touring acts. So unfortunately, the Calgary people that are listening to this, go Leafs go, go Raps go.
No, that's a wrap now. That's done. We're done. Well, Raptors were good.
So I spend a lot of my time now in downtown Toronto, and I've always had. And there is a new brewery that it's been around for a couple years now, but they just launched just a little east of the Distillery District, new area, Canary District, Long Slice Brewery. Really good buddies of mine have gone for about a year now, and bunch of different brews that they do, and it's very micro, but tons of good quality stuff. The brewmaster that they got there, John Pete, he is phenomenal. He's something else. And really, I've always like my go-to has always been Steam Whistle, but they've really like branched out my taste and whatnot. And there's a beer that they do. It's a hibiscus pale ale. It's called Aloha Friday, and it is it's a 5% brew. And it's like honestly, it's like your perfect summer drink. You get all these different. You get a little bit of the hop in it, but then you get like those notes of the hibiscus and orange and whatnot. And I've never really drank something like that, but it's really good. And you can have a couple of those and have a good night and whatnot. But everything they've done as well. They like Loose Lips. It's like a Vienna like malt law. It's like a bit of a darker body lager and whatnot. It's everything they've done has been really good, and I've quite enjoyed. Other breweries,
and that's what I like about what I like about these smaller breweries too, is that they get to experiment and you get to try a lot of different things that and I understand why something like Bud or Coors that's asking a lot, and there's putting a lot more demand, but to make sure that something tastes good and is successful, whereas like these smaller breweries can do a couple kegs and it's not really the end of the world. They may sit around a little bit longer and not sell as well, but that's about it.
And that's the key as well, because even as well, I've been to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery in St. Louis, and I've done the tour, and I've tasted stuff that are right off the line. And for lagers and stuff, that stuff off the line is like probably some of the best beer I've had. The key is that when you get into the distribution chain, and then you're shipping it from here and there, and it's sitting on a shelf, and then you got to put it in your own fridge, and it's sitting in your own fridge, and it's in the bottom. But like stuff off the line, you can't beat that. But definitely, I love local breweries for that. Just the ability to try new things and to experiment, and then just the community around it as well.
It's, I guess, the it's been great that we can still get these beers and we can order them, but I miss going to the tap room, because you could do flights, and sometimes there's those beers where it's good, but it's only like that much you want to actually drink of it. It's that
exactly
of it. So now you kind of have to commit a bit more. So we're not trying as much, but that's fine. As we start to wrap up here, I want to know, people are needing things to pass the time. What's a show or movie that you recommend to people?
Okay, so everyone's probably said Tiger King now as well. If you haven't seen it, or you're living under a rock, you got to watch it. It's entertaining, you know, but then it's also like it can get very disturbing at some points as well when you see that. But if you are living under a rock, everybody and their uncles probably suggested that at some point. But for me, so two shows I'm watching. If you haven't watched Survivor in a while, this season's the season to get back into it because it's the first time they're doing all winners.
Right.
So it's for their 40th season. They're doing it's called Winners at War. So 20 people who have won the game, they're coming back for $2 million.
Wow.
And in recent, they're doing a twist. It's called the Edge of Extinction. So if you're voted out of the game, you have the opportunity to come back into the game. You just go to a separate island that is like very bare bones, and they have a bunch of clues and whatnot to try to find advantages within the game. And then eventually there's a challenge at some point to get back into the game. But then they even like introduce like their own currency. It's like this fire token stuff where you can barter and trade with people, and like it's its own Survivor currency. But for me, this season, you got 20 of the best people that have ever played Survivor, and you got some of the best strategy that's in the game. And it's very unpredictable because everybody has this assumption as to who their favorite is or who they're rooting for. And just there's a lot of upsets, but then there's a lot of underdogs to root for as well. And it's such a great season if you've seen Survivor before to get back into it. And we're only at like the halfway point right now. The merge just happened last week, but
and I would say that like, you know we're trapped indoors. I mean, we can go for little walks, but we're not going on any vacation. So it is nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a little different scenery, right?
Then the other show as well, if like for the streaming services and whatnot, Money Heist. Part 4 just came out this past week, and if you haven't seen Money Heist, or in Spanish, La Casa de Papel, I'm not Spanish. I'd probably butcher that. Sorry for anyone that's listening.
That was
does speak Spanish. But pretty much the gist of it is it's pretty much like your old school, like Ocean's 11-esque heist show. But that's the key thing. Like, so it's this group of Spanish robbers that all come together with this figurehead guy called the Professor that pretty much plans the whole ordeal. The first 2 seasons, they go rob the Royal Mint of Spain, and they pretty much print their own paper and whatnot. And then then into season 3 and season 4, they're on another heist, and they're I believe it's the Royal Bank of Spain that they're at. But definitely what I really like about this is you see your typical heist movie or like action thriller movie, and you only get an hour and a half with these characters. And a lot of the time, the crew that you have within these shows, you only see like that little montage. It's like, oh, we got the guy that is the getaway driver. We got the guy that can break into the safe. We got this guy that's going to be the heavy guy that's going to punch anybody. We got the TNT expert, and you only get that like little music montage, and you can see all the people, then the epic walk in all together in a big group. What's good about this is that all the characters that are in those roles, they're pretty well developed, and you get the time over 4 seasons to develop that character and to get to know more of their emotions and what their background, why they're doing this heist, and just and probably as an actor, really appreciate like really good character development. And for myself, it's a genre of movies I love, and to see it in a TV show form where you have that time to actually develop those characters, it's phenomenal. And the guy that's running it as well, it's like it's this total genius, and you never know what this guy's going to do. So if you haven't seen, if you've seen the show and you haven't seen part 4 yet, just came out, or if you want to watch something and binge something, highly recommend it.
Yeah, this is a great time to check out those shows on Netflix that have always kind of just sailed by the wayside that people aren't really talking about. So I mean, you got the chance now, why not go do it? Well, thank you, Brett, for being on here today. It was great talking with you, catching up. So people can, if they want to hear more from Cozen and Talking Violet, how can people
So I'll send you links to throw in the description of wherever you're listening to this
Cool.
podcast. But Cozen, you can find them online. Kozen Music. That's their like social media username, or cozen.org. Talking Violet, spelled like it sounds, same as their username, and no website at the moment, but both artists, they are across all different streaming platforms, and they got videos on YouTube. More music coming soon from both of them as well. And now's the time, really, if you want something new to listen to, definitely just taking one listen to it is greatly appreciated. Any listens we can get to, the support is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, definitely. So check them out, guys. There's plenty to listen to right now. You got the time. Why not discover something new? Thank you, Brett, again, so much for being on.
No
And
worries. Thank you, Craig.
we will chat soon. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you soon.